The Halloween Tree by Ray Bradbury. Chapter 5. The pumpkins on the tree were not mere pumpkins. Each had a face sliced in it. Each face was different. Every eye was a stranger eye. Every nose was a weirder nose. Every mouth smiled hideously in some new way. There must have been 1,000 pumpkins on this tree, hung high on every branch. 1,000 smiles, 1,000 grimaces, and twice times 1,000 glares and winks and blinks and leerings of fresh-cut eyes. And as the boys watched, a new thing happened. The pumpkins began to come alive. One by one, starting at the bottom of the tree and the nearest pumpkins, candles took fire within the raw interiors. This one, and then that, and this, and then still another, and on up and around. 3 pumpkins here, 7 pumpkins, still higher. A dozen clustered beyond, 100, 500, 1,000 pumpkins lit their candles, which is to say, brightened up their faces, showed fire in their square or round or curiously slanted eyes. Flame guttered in their toothed mouths. Sparks leaped out their ripe-cut ears. And from somewhere, 2 voices, 3 or maybe 4 voices whispered and chanted a kind of sing-song or old sea shanty of the sky and time, and the earth turning over into sleep. The rain spouts blew spider dust. It's big, it's broad, a voice smoked from the rooftop chimney. It's broad, it's bright, it fills the sky of All Hallows night. From open windows somewhere, cobwebs drifted. The strangest sight you've ever seen, the monster tree on Halloween. The candles flickered and flared. The wind crooned in, the wind crooned out, the pumpkin mouths tuning the song. The leaves have burned to golden red. The grass is brown, the old year dead, but hang the harvest high, oh, see the candle constellations on the Halloween tree. Tom felt his mouth stir like a small mouse, wanting to sing. The stars they turn, the candles burn, and the mouse leaves scurry on the cold wind borne. And the mob of smiles shine down on thee from the gourds hung high on the Halloween tree. The smile of the witch and the smile of the cat, the smile of the beast, the smile of the bat, the smile of the reaper taking his fee, all cut and glimmer on the Halloween tree. Smoke seemed to sift from Tom's mouth. Halloween tree. All the boys whispered it. Halloween tree. And then there was silence. And during the silence, the last of the triples and quadruples of All Hallows tree candles were lit in titanic constellations, woven up through the black branches and peeking down through the twigs and crisp leaves. And the tree had now become one vast, substantial smile. The last of the pumpkins now were lit. The air around the tree was Indian summer breathing warm. The tree exhaled sooty smoke and raw pumpkin smell upon them. Gosh, said Tom Skelton. Hey, what kind of place is this? Asked Henry Hank the witch. I mean, The first house, that man, and no treats, only tricks, and now? I never saw a tree like this in my life, like a Christmas tree, only bigger, and all those candles and pumpkins. What's it mean? What's it celebrate? Celebrate. A vast voice whispered somewhere, perhaps in a chimney soot bellows, or perhaps all the windows of the house opened like mouths at the same moment behind them, sliding up, sliding down, announcing the word celebrate with breathings out of darkness. Yes, said the gigantic whisper, which trembled the candles and the pumpkins. Celebration! The boys leaped around, but the house was still. The windows were closed and brimmed with pools of moonlight. Last one in's an old maid, cried Tom suddenly, and a bond of leaves lay waiting like old fires, old gold. And the boys ran and dived at the huge, lovely pile of autumn treasure. And in the moment of diving, about to vanish beneath the leaves in crisp swarms, yelling, shouting, shoving, falling, there was an immense gulp of breath, a seizing in of air. The boys yelped, pulled back as if an invisible whip had struck them. For coming out of the pile of leaves was a bony white hand, all by itself. And following it, all smiles, hidden one moment but now revealed as it slid upward, was a white skull. And what had been a delicious pool of oak and elm and poplar leaves to thrash and sink and hide in, now became the last place on all this world the boys wanted to be, for the bony white hand was flying on the air, and the white skull rose to hover before them. And the boys fell back, colliding, sneezing out their air in panics, until in one wild mass they fell upon the earth and writhed and tore at the grass, to fight free, scramble, try to run. Help! They cried. Oh, yes, help, said the skull. Then peal after peal of laughter froze them further, as the hand upon the air, the bony skeleton hand, reached up, took hold of the white skull face and peeled it down and off. The boys blinked once behind their masks. Their jaws dropped, though none could see them dropping. The huge man in dark clothes soared up out of the leaves, taller and yet taller. He grew like a tree. He put out branches that were hands. He stood framed against the Halloween tree itself, his outstretched arms and long white bony fingers festooned with orange globes of fire and burning smiles. His eyes were pressed tight as he roared his laughter. His mouth gaped wide to let an autumn wind rush out. Not treat, boys, no, not treat. Trick, boys, trick, trick. They lay waiting for the earthquake to come, and it came. The tall man's laughter took hold of the ground and gave it a shake. This tremor passed through their bones, came out of their mouths, and it came out in the form of still more laughter. They sat up amid the ruins of the thrashed-about leaf pile, surprised. They put their hands to their masks to feel the hot air leaping out in small gusts of echoing mirth. Then they looked up at the man, as if to verify their surprise. Yes, boys, that was a trick. You'd forgotten? No, you never knew. And he leaned against the tree, finishing out his fits of happiness, shaking the trunk, making the 1,000 pumpkins shiver and the fires inside to smoke and dance. Warmed by their laughter, the boys got up to feel their bones and see if anything was broken. Nothing was. They stood in a small mob under the Halloween tree, waiting. For they knew this was only the beginning of something new and special and grand and fine. "Well," said Tom Skelton. "Well, Tom?" said the man. "Tom!" cried everyone else. "Is that you?" Tom, in the skeleton mask, stiffened. "Or is it Bob or Fred? Oh, no, that must be Ralph," said the man quickly. "All of those," sighed Tom, clapping his mask hard in place, relieved. "Yeah, all," said everyone. The man nodded, smiling. "Well, now you know something about Halloween you never knew before. How did you like my trick?" "Trick, yes, trick!" The boys were catching fire with the idea. It made all the good glue go out of their joints and put a little dust of sin in their blood. They felt it stir around until it pumped on up to light their eyes and stretch their lips to show their happy dog teeth. "Yeah, sure." "Is that what you used to do on Halloween?" asked the witch boy. "This and more, but let me introduce myself. Mounshroud is the name, Carapace Clavicle Mounshroud. Does that have a ring, boys? Does it sound for you?" "It sounds," the boys thought. Oh, it sounds. Mounshroud. "A fine name," said Mr. Mounshroud, giving it a full sepulchral night church sound. "And a fine night. Oh, the deep, dark, wild, long history of Halloween waiting to swallow us whole." "Swallow us?" "Yes," cried Mounshroud. "Lads, look at yourselves. Why, are you, boy, wearing that skull face, and you, boy, carrying a scythe, and you, lad, made up like a witch, and you. He thrust his bony finger at each mask. "You don't know, do you? You just put on those faces and old mothball clothes and jump out, but you don't really know, do you?" "Well," said Tom, a mouse behind his skull-white muslin, no." "Yeah," said the devil boy. "Come to think of it, why am I wearing this?" He fingered his red cloak and sharp rubber horns and lovely pitchfork. "And me," said the ghost, trailing its long white graveyard sheets, and all the boys were given to wonder and touch their own costumes and refit their own masks. "Then, wouldn't it be fun for you to find out?" asked Mr. Mounshroud. "I'll tell you." "No, I'll show you, if only there was time." "It's only 6:30. Halloween hasn't even begun," said Tom in his cold bones. "True," said Mr. Mounshroud. "All right, lads, come along." He strode, they ran. At the edge of the deep, dark night ravine, he pointed over the rim of the hills and the earth, away from the light of the moon, under the dim light of strange stars. The wind fluttered his black cloak and the hood that half shadowed and now half revealed his almost fleshless face. "There. Do you see it, lads?" "What?" "The undiscovered country. Out there. Look long. Look deep. Make a feast. The past, boys. The past. Oh, it's dark, yes, and full of nightmare. Everything that Halloween ever was lies buried there. Will you dig for bones, boys? Do you have the stuff?" He burned his gaze at them. "What is Halloween? How did it start? Where? Why? What for? Witches, cats, mummy dust haunt it. Oh, there, in that country from which no one returns. Will you dive into the dark ocean, boys? Will you fly into the dark sky?" The boys swallowed hard. Someone peeped. We'd like to, but Pipkin, we've got to wait for Pipkin." "Yeah, Pipkin sent us to your place. We couldn't go without him." As if summoned in this instant, they heard a cry from the far side of the ravine. "Hey, here I am," called a frail voice. They saw his small figure standing with a lit pumpkin on the far ravine ledge. "This way!" they all yelled. "Pipkin, quick!" "Coming," was the cry. "I don't feel so good, but I had to come. Wait for me." Chapter 6. They saw his small figure run down the middle of the ravine on the path. "Oh, please wait." The voice began to fail. "I don't feel well. I can't run. Can't. Pipkin!" Everyone shouted, waving from the edge of the cliff. His figure was small, small, small. There were shadows mixed everywhere. Bats flew. Owls shrieked. Night ravens clustered like black leaves in trees. The small boy running with his lit pumpkin fell. "Oh," gasped Moundshroud. The pumpkin light went out. "Oh," gasped everyone. "Light your pumpkin, Pig! Light it!" shrieked Tom. He thought he saw the small figure scrabbling in the dark grass below, trying to strike a light. But in that instant of darkness, the night swept in. A great wing folded over the abyss. Many owls hooted. Many mice scampered and slithered in the shadows. A million tiny murders happened somewhere. "Light your pumpkin, Pip!" "Help!" wailed his sad voice. 1,000 wings flew away. A great beast beat the air somewhere like a thumping drum. The clouds, like gauzy scenes, were pulled away to set a clean sky. The moon was there, a great eye. It looked down upon an empty path. Pipkin, nowhere to be seen. Way off, toward the horizon, something dark frittered and danced and slithered away in the cold star air. "Help! Help!" wailed a fading voice. Then it was gone. "Oh," mourned Mr. Moundshroud. "This is bad. I fear something has taken him away." Where? Gibbered the boys, cold. "To the undiscovered country. The place I wanted to show you, but now..." "You don't mean that thing in the ravine, it or him or whatever that something was death? Did he grab Pipkin and run?" "Borrowed is more like it. Perhaps to hold him for ransom," said Moundshroud. "Can death do that?" "Sometimes, yes." "Oh, gosh." Tom felt his eyes water. "Pip, tonight running slow, so pale. Pip, you shouldn't have come out." He shouted at the sky, but there was only wind there, and white clouds floating like old spirit fluff in a clear river of wind. They stood cold, shivering. They looked off to where the dark something had stolen their friend. "So," said Moundshroud, "all the more reason for you to come along, lads. If we fly fast, maybe we can catch Pipkin. Grab his sweet Halloween corn candy soul. Bring him back. Pop him in bed. Toast him warm. Save his breath. What say, lads? Would you solve 2 mysteries in one? Search and seek for lost Pipkin and solve Halloween, all in one fell, dark blow?" They thought of All Hallows Night and the billion ghosts a-wandering the lonely lanes in cold winds and strange smokes. They thought of Pipkin, no more than a thimbleful of boy and sheer summer delight, torn out like a tooth and carried off on a black tide of web and horn and black soot. And almost as one, they murmured, "Yes." Moundshroud sprang. He ran, he pummeled, he pushed, he raved. "Quick now, along this path, up the rise, along this road, the abandoned farm, over the fence, allez-oop!" They leaped the fence, running, and stood by a barn that was frosted over with old circus posters, with banners tattered by wind pasted here 30, 40, 50 years back. Circuses passing through had left patches and swatches of themselves 10 inches thick. "A kite, boys! Build a kite, quick!" Chapter 7. No sooner had he cried this than Mr. Moundshroud ripped a great tissue from the side of the barn. It fluttered in his hands. The eye of a tiger, another rip from another ancient poster, and the mouth of a lion. The boys heard roars of Africa down the wind. They blinked, they ran, they scratched with fingernails, they plucked with hands, they seized off strips and patches and huge rolls of animal flesh, of fang and piercing eye, of wounded flank, of blood-red claw, of tail, of bound and leap and cry. The whole side of the barn was an ancient parade, stopped dead. They tore it asunder, and with each tear they pulled off talon, tongue, or ravening feline eye. Beneath waited layer upon layer of jungle nightmare. Delicious encounters with polar bears, panicked zebra, milling prides of lions, charging rhinos, clambering gorillas, which pawed up the side of midnight and swung toward dawn. 1,000 animals in congregation rumbled to be set free. Now, free in fists and hands and fingers, whistling on the autumn wind, the boys raced off across the grass. Now Moundshroud knocked down old fence railing beams and made a rough kite cross and bound them with wire, then stood back to receive the gifts of kite paper as the boys flung them in fistfuls, and these he tossed in place upon the frame, and spark flinting fused with burnings of his horny hands. "Hey!" the boys cried their delight. "Oh, look!" They had never seen such things, or known that men such as Moundshroud, with a pinch, a clutch, a pressure of fingers, might blend an eye with tooth, a tooth with mouth, a mouth with feline bobcat tail. All mingled beautifully into a single thing, a wild jigsaw puzzle jungle zoo, billowed and trapped, pasted and tied, growing, taking color and sound and pattern in the light of the ascending moon. Now another cannibal eye, now another hungry maw, a mad chimpanzee, a most insane mandrill ape, a screaming butcher bird. The boys ran up with the last frights handed over, and the kite finished, the ancient flesh laid out, fused by the still blue smoking burning horny hands. Mr. Moundshroud lit a cigar, with the last bit of fire that sparked out of his thumb, and smiled. And the light from his smile showed the kite for what it was. A kite of destructions, of animals so dire and fierce, their outcry drowned the wind and murdered the heart. He was pleased. The boys were pleased, for the kite somehow seemed to resemble... "Why," said Tom, astounded, "a pterodactyl!" "A what?" "Pterodactyl, those ancient flying reptiles gone some billion years back and never seen again," replied Mr. Mountrout. "Well said, boy. Pterodactyl, it seems, and is, and will fly us downwind to perdition or Land's End or some other fine-sounding place. But now, rope, twine, string, quick, filch and carry." They ran the rope off an old abandoned clothesline strung between barn and abandoned farmhouse. A good 90 feet or more of rope they brought Mountrout, who snaked it through his fist until it smoked a most unholy smoke. He tied it to the middle of the vast kite, which flapped like a somehow lost and out-of-the-water manta ray upon this high, strange beach. It struggled with wind to live. It flapped and floundered on the heaves of tidal air, laid down on grass. Mountrout stood back, gave a jerk, and lo! The kite flew. It hung low upon the air at the end of its clothesline, in a dumb, brute groveling of wind, veering this way, dashing that, leaping up suddenly to confront them with a wall of eyes, a solid flesh of teeth, a storm of cries. "It won't rise, won't go straight, a tail, we need a tail." And by instinct, Tom dived first and seized the kite by its bottom. He hung there. The kite steadied. It began to rise. "Yes," cried the dark man. "Oh, lad, you are the one, bright boy. You be the tail, and more, and more." And as the kite slowly ascended the cold river of swift-flowing air, each boy in turn, seized with the whim, spurred by his wits, became more and more of the tail, which is to say that Henry Hank, disguised as a witch, grabbed Tom's ankles, and now the kite had 2 boys for its magnificent tail. And Ralph Bengstrom, wound up in his mummy clothes, stumbling over his winding tapes, smothered in his burial rags, shambled forward, jumped, and grabbed Henry Hank's ankles. So 3 boys hung now in a tail. "Wait, here I come!" cried Bigger, who under his dirt and rags was really Fred Fryer. He jumped, he caught, the kite ascended. The 4 boys making the tail yelled for more length. They got it when the boy dressed as the ape-man scrambled and grabbed ankles, followed by the boy dressed as Death with a scythe, who did dangerously likewise. "Watch out with the scythe!" The scythe fell and lay in the grass like a lost smile. But the 2 boys hung down now from all the half-washed ankles, and the kite rose more, higher, higher, adding a boy and a boy and a boy, until with a yell and shout, 8 boys were down hung in a magnificent thrashing tale. The last 2 being Ghost, who was truly George Smith, and Wally Babb, who had, inspired, made himself up to look like a gargoyle fallen off the top of a cathedral. The boys yelled with elation. The kite swooped and took off. "Hey!" Whoosh! The kite purred with 1,000 animal whispers. Wang! The kite rope strummed the wind. Hush! Said the entire thing, and the wind flew them high across the stars, leaving Mountrout to look up with awe at his contraption, his kite, his boys. "Wait!" he shouted. "Don't wait, come on!" the boys yelled. Mountrout ran along the grass to seize the scythe. His cape fluttered, taking air, making wings until he also, very simply, took off and soared. Chapter 8. The kite flew. The boys hung down from the kite in a fine lizard's tail, now weaving, now looping, now snapping, now gliding. They yelled with delight, they shrieked with in-gasped, out-gasped terror. They rode across the moon in an exclamation point. They soared over hills and meadows and farms. They saw themselves reflected in dusky, moonbright streams, creeks, rivers. They brushed down over ancient trees. The wind, stirred by their passing, shook down whole government mints of coins, leaves, bright showering, to the black-grassed earth. They flew over the town and thought, "Oh, look up, see, here we are, your sons," and thought, "Oh, look down, there somewhere are our mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, teachers. Hey, here we are, oh, someone see us, or you'll never believe." And in a last swoop, the kite whistled, hummed, drummed along the winds to float over the old house and the Halloween tree, where first they had met Moundshroud. Swoop, flutter, glide, rush, hiss. The suction of their swung bodies caused 1,000 candles to flutter, flicker, stutter their light, hiss with desire to reflame themselves, so all the hung pumpkin scowls and leers and wild smiles were half snuffed to unhappy shadows. The whole tree went dead for a heartbeat. Then, as the kite sang high, the tree blazed up with 1,000 new-cut pumpkin frowns, glares, grimaces, and grins. The windows of the house, black mirrors, saw the kite go away and away, until the boys and the kite and Mr. Moundshroud were very small on the horizon. And then down they sailed off, away deep into the undiscovered country of old death and strange years in the frightful past. "Where are we going?" cried Tom, hanging to the kite's tail. "Yes, where?" cried all the boys, one after another, below. "Not where, but when," said Moundshroud, pacing them, his great veiled cloak full of moon wind and time. 2,000, count them, years before Christ. Pipkin's there, waiting. I smell it. Fly!" Then the moon began to blink. It closed up its eye and there was darkness. Then faster and faster it began to wink, to wax, to wane, to wax again, until 1,000 times over it flickered and in flickering changed the landscape below, and then 50,000 times, so fast they could not see it. The moon extinguished and relit itself, and the moon stopped winking and held very still, and the land was changed. "Look," said Moundshroud, hung upon the very air above them, and the million tiger, lion, leopard, panther eyes of the autumn kite looked down, as did the eyes of the boys, and the sun rose, showing them Egypt, the river Nile, the Sphinx, the pyramids. "But," said Moundshroud, "notice anything different?" "Why," gasped Tom, "it's all new. It's just been built. That means we really have gone back in time 4,000 years. And sure enough, the Egypt that lay below was ancient sand but new-cut stone. The Sphinx, with its great lion paws treaded out on the golden stuffs of desert, was sharp cut and freshly born out of the womb of stone mountains. It was a vast pup in the bright and empty glare of noon. If the sun had fallen and lay between its paws, it would have cuffed it like a fireball toy. The Pyramids? Why, they lay like strange-shaped blocks, yet other games to be puzzled over, played with the woman-lion sphinx. The kite zoomed down and skirted the sand dunes, floated over one pyramid and was drawn, as by suction, by an open tomb mouth set in a small cliff. "Hey, presto!" cried Mountroud, with a flap. He gave the kite such a kick as made the boys toll like clamorous bells. "Hey, no!" they cried. The kite shuddered, fell down, hovered 10 feet above the dunes, and shook itself like a wild dog ridding itself of fleas. The boys fell safe in golden sand. The kite broke away in 1,000 shreds of eyes, fangs, shrieks, roars, elephant trumpetings. The Egyptian tomb mouth sucked them in, and Mountroud laughing with it. "Mr. Mountroud, wait!" Leaping up, the boys ran to shout into the dark tomb doorway. Then they lifted their gaze and saw where they were. The Valley of the Kings, where huge stone gods loomed above. Dust sifted in a strange downpour of tears from their eyes, tears made of sand and powdered rock. The boys leaned into the shadows. Like a dry river bottom, the corridors led down to deep vaults where lay the linen-wrapped dead. Dust fountains echoed and played in strange courtyards a mile below. The boys ached, listening. The tomb breathed out a sick exhalation of paprika, cinnamon, and powdered camel dung. Somewhere, a mummy dreamed, coughed in its sleep, unraveled a bandage, twitched its dusty tongue, and turned over for another 1,000-year snooze. "Mr. Mountroud," called Tom Skelton. Chapter 9. And from deep in the dry earth, a lost voice whispered, "Mountroud." Out of the darkness, something rolled, rushed, flapped. A long strip of mummy cloth snapped out into the sunlight. It was as if the very tomb itself had stuck out its old dried tongue, which lay at their feet. The boys stared. The linen strip was hundreds of yards long, and might, if they wished, lead them down, down into the mysterious deeps below the Egyptian earth. Tom Skelton, trembling, put one toe out to touch the yellow linen strip. A wind blew from the tombs, saying, "Yes." "Here I go," said Tom, and balancing on the tightrope of linen, he wandered down and vanished in the dark, under the burial chambers. "Yes," whispered the wind, coming up from below. "All of you, come next, and next, and another, and another. Quick!" The boys raced down the linen path in darkness. "Watch for murder, boys, murder!" The pillars on both sides of the rushing boys flashed to life. Pictures shivered and moved. The golden sun was on every pillar, but it was a sun with arms and legs, bound tight with mummy wrappings. "Murder!" A dark creature struck the sun one dreadful blow. The sun died. Its fires went out. The boys ran in darkness. "Yeah, thought Tom, running. Sure, I think every night the sun dies. Going to sleep, I wonder, will it come back? Tomorrow morning, will it still be dead? The boys ran. On new pillars dead ahead, the sun appeared again, burning out of eclipse. Swell, thought Tom. That's it, sunrise. But just as quickly, the sun was murdered again. On each pillar they raced by, the sun died in autumn and was buried in cold winter. Middle of December, thought Tom. I often think the sun will never come back. Winter will go on forever. This time the sun is really dead. But as the boys slowed at the end of the long corridor, the sun was reborn. Spring arrived with golden horns. Lights filled the corridor with pure fire. The strange god stood burning on every wall, his face a grand fire of triumph, wrapped in golden ribbons. Why, heck, I know who he is, panted Henry Hank. Saw him in a movie once with terrible Egyptian mummies. Osiris, said Tom. Yes, hissed Moundshroud's voice from the deep tombs. Lesson number 1 about Halloween. Osiris, son of the earth and sky, killed each night by his brother, Darkness. Osiris, slain by autumn, murdered by his own night blood. So it goes in every country. Each has his death festival, having to do with seasons, skulls and bones, boys, skeletons and ghosts. In Egypt, lads, see the death of Osiris, king of the dead. Gaze long. The boys gazed, for they had come to a vast hole in the underground cavern. And through this hole they could look out at an Egyptian village where, at dusk, food was being placed out in pottery and copper dishes, on porches and sills, for the homecoming ghosts, whispered Moundshroud, somewhere in the shadows. Rows of oil lamps were nailed to house fronts, and the soft smoke from these rose up on the twilight air like wandering spirits. You could almost see the haunts shifting along the cobbled streets. The shadows leaned away from the lost sun in the west and tried to enter the houses, but the warm food steaming on the porches kept the shadows circling and stirring. A faint smell of incense and mummy dust wafted up to the boys, who looked out upon this ancient Halloween, and the treats being set forth not for wandering boys, but homeless ghosts. Hey, whispered all the boys. Do not lose your way in the dark, voices sang in the houses to harps and lutes. Oh, sweet dear, sweet dead, come home and welcome here. Lost in the dark, but always dear. Do not wander, do not roam, dear ones, come home. Smoke curled from the dim lamps, and the shadows stepped up on the porches and very gently touched the gifts of food. And in one house they could see an old grandfather mummy being taken out of a closet and put in the place of honor at the head of the table, with food set before him. And the members of the family sat down to their evening meal and lifted their glasses and drank to the dead one seated there. All dust and dry silence.